Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another movie discussion. This being a show where I just talk about movies. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Marvels. Obviously, this will be a general spoiler discussion. I'll include times code so you can kind of skip around to the different topics as I kind of break down my thoughts about the movie in different ways, but you can kind of jump around to different things that you want to hear my thoughts about. But first and foremost, I'll start off with non-spoilers, giving my general thoughts. In general, I thought the movie was great. I thought it was like a lot of fun. I know the general reception has been like 50-50. My understanding at the very least, you're never quite sure about that, but my understanding is there are people who like it and then there's people who don't. I happen to be on the side of people who like it. I thought it was like a fun and funny movie. Like, it made me smile. It was legitimately just a fun time. And to me, the movie kind of set out to be that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, it has dramatic moments, but overall, it was just a fun kind of space adventure, especially our trio. I'll talk about it more, but I love their dynamic together, like how they do bounce off of each other. To me, that is the core key to this story. Once again, everyone else has their feelings like, oh, it feels like a generic superhero movie. But to me, you can say that, but I think the way they implemented these characters, and especially with their powers and the whole, I guess you want to call it gimmick, but the shtick of this movie, of like not only just a trio, but even like them utilizing their powers and the whole swapping and utilizing it, just thought that was a lot of fun. And I thought that was such a neat way to kind of go about using it and just having so much, like, not only like using it in serious situations, but also like the fun they had with it. So those are just kind of my general thoughts. I thought it was just kind of like a nice like space adventure essentially. And I think that's so cool. I know some people might have issues because they're like, oh, it's on such a large scale. But I'm also like, to be fair, we are dealing with the galaxy. I know some people are like, oh, like, the fact is, like, oh, why do certain superhero movies have to be so large scale? It's the end of the world type of thing. It's like, well, I will cut it some slack because this is on a bigger scale. We are talking about Carol, who has been covering a lot of the universe. You know, so, like, a lot of Universal stuff falls under her purview, like, out there in the galaxy. Just like the Guardians deal with some pretty dire stuff as well, but obviously the argument could be like, well, those are still small enough stories. This kind of is in its own way, but like I said, it all feels like it falls under Carol's purview just because it's like a lot of planetary stuff. So, but anyway, just like, to me, I feel like the scale kind of matches what we're doing. We're traveling around space, so it's not just going to be, there's no keeping it small in that way. I mean, the first movie wasn't, I mean, the first one was, I mean, I think having only seen the first one once, but from what I can remember, it's small scale in just the scope of its story, but also it wasn't like world ending, but it's like dealing with like warring species, so it kind of gets up there, but I do feel like obviously they boosted up the scale for this one, but like I said, just generally, I had a lot of fun with this movie, and it just like I said, my favorite aspect is the bouncing between the characters. Not even just our main trio; they are the heavy hitters, but also their interactions with some of the supporting cast is actually really dope too, and just some of the expansion of the lore, especially getting more with Carol, because like we've only gotten tiny bits with Carol since Captain Marvel. Like we got a little bit of her in Endgame, we got a little bit, like a tiny bit of her at the end of Shang-Chi, but we haven't been able to spend a lot of time with Carol, so kind of getting to see this character even more, that we haven't really gotten an opportunity to really see her fleshed out more in these past couple years, to see that more in her interactions with Monica and Kamala, it's really dope. So it just, that's all I got to really say about it on the non-spoiler front. So like I said, those are my general thoughts. Going forward, I will be going into spoilers, so you have been warned. But like, since I was on that topic of the whole, like, our trio, I think it is such an interesting dynamic. Once again, I just love the power switching gimmick. I guess it would be considered a gimmick in the movie, but I love it so much and how much fun that is. And just, obviously, like, and because I brought it up a little bit in a non-spoiler, but I like that we got to see like a more, like, because I think it was more like a direction reason. I don't have an issue with it, but yeah, Carol was a lot more stoic in the first movie, in Captain Marvel. I feel like the only time you really got to see her kind of like loosen up was any time she was around Monica or Maria or Fury. Those are the only times. Every other time she was more in stoic hero mode. I feel like we got to see a sillier side to her, that, you know, just like some of her reactions and some of her interactions with like the other characters. But even like she had this moment where she was explaining stuff to Fury, and she's like, oh, come on, Fury. It was just like there was a glowing around my hand, and he's like, oh, so like he said something, and it was it was a way we had never seen Carol before that I thought was just like so fun. You know, I was like, oh, like getting to see kind of like a sillier side to her character. I thought was actually kind of really dope. But also, obviously, like Kamala just gives you like just Iman Vellani is just an adorable human being in this role. I mean, because I'm not well versed in Miss Marvel and Kamala. My only interaction with her is this in the MCU adaptation, but I loved Iman Vellani as Kamala in Miss Marvel, and she's bringing all that energy. And just when they tell her like, oh yeah, you switch places with Captain Marvel, she's like, what? She looks like she's going to have a panic attack. She's like, oh my gosh, she was here and I missed her. She looked like she was going to have a nervous breakdown. And when she finally meets Carol, at one point Carol was like, no, Kamala, don't talk to them. It's like, oh my God, you know my name. It's like Spider-Man to the nth degree. Because like Peter and Tony kind of had a little bit of that similar dynamic, but I think Peter was able to rein in some of his fanboyishness. Kamala was not. She's just full fangirling out the entire time, and I love it. You know, I mean, because I also love that she's just like, oh my God, Nick Fury. Oh my God, you're Nick Fury. Hey, is this an Avengers thing? Like, I just love it so much because, like, her spunkiness and just being young and so in love with the Avengers, but especially Captain Marvel, it's infectious and like it wears everyone down. I even love that opening. I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of it, but I do love that we brought some of that over, that fourth wall breaking thing with Miss Marvel. We only got a little bit of it. I think I heard like that was like a production issue, like they just didn't have enough time to do it throughout the entire show. So you get it like the first 2 episodes and you get it in the finale, but you don't get it a lot in the finale. But it's like, yeah, like her like drawing stuff and like her being like, oh, her and Carol, and it's just like, oh my God, you're Captain Marvel. Well, I'm Miss Marvel. Oh, I hope that's okay. She's like, you twinsies. I love that so much. And especially later on when they do it and like she does the finger gun at her like twinsies, and Carol kind of does it back. And then after the conversation were over, you see Kamala just look at her finger like, why did you do that, you idiot? You messed this up. It's so good. And Monica getting to kind of, because Monica, I think, kind of adopted a lot of Carol's personality too, where it's like she can be not stoic, but it's just like she takes her job very seriously, obviously, but she also has a little more laid back fun in this like wacky adventure as well. But this gave me, I've been waiting for the Carol and Monica stuff since WandaVision. Once again, what was it? Episode 4, I believe, is when they introduced the fact is, like, they were like, oh, the moment, like, Jimmy and Darcy brought up Carol, like, Monica had this look. I'm like, yo, I've been waiting years to finally find out what that beef was about. And we kind of finally get an answer to it. It turns out that Monica's issue was like, you were gone my entire life. You promised me. I was a little girl. You promised me you'd come back, Aunt Carol, and you didn't. You left and didn't ever come back. And I like, because at the time, me and many people wondered if it was specifically because of, oh, Maria was sick and Carol wasn't around. That's what I thought it was going to be. But I love that we do get an exploration of that, where it turns out Carol did see Maria. When Maria was like, her cancer had gone away and came back. So I'm wondering, is it in that time frame during that 5 years? Because obviously Monica got snapped. So in that time frame, Maria like went into remission and then like got her cancer again. Because it seems like Carol did keep up to date with what was going on with Monica. They hadn't talked, but I guess she got updates from Fury because she has a very updated photo. But that could just been like when she hung out around Maria, Maria gave her like a more updated photo. It could be a combination of the two, but it's like probably, especially after Maria died, that's probably how she kept up with like what Monica was up to, was probably Fury. He kind of acted as a go-between, even at the beginning being like, you two are going to talk to each other, but Monica was like, right, we need to have a family situation, sit down like when I'm inside. We can't just be having that while I'm in the middle of something right now. Because it's like, Monica, Aunt Carol, and then like often referring her as Captain Marvel, you know? Because it's just, because trying to, you know, not let her feelings show too much, because it is a situation of like, I gotta be like, we got work to do. I can't let our personal issues get in the way. Just, they have moments, because it's awkward for Carol too, because she doesn't know what to say, and she doesn't know a lot of the like, Carol's carrying her own baggage, and so is Monica, and they just haven't sat down to talk about it. I mean, it's years, decades of like, yeah, you were going. Because part of me wonders, because that was my big question too of like, so why, because like, how long was Carol on Earth? Couldn't been on Earth that long, because we know like eventually during Endgame she ended up going back to space. But I guess like after they defeated Thanos in that 5-year period, maybe she popped in on Earth from time to time. And the reason why Monica didn't get to spend any time with her, because it was in the time frame where she was going. Because this movie talks about why she was gone for all that time and why she didn't feel like coming back. I mean, the only reason why she came back to Earth in the first place is because of Fury, because she knew like, oh, this must be a big enough deal. I mean, half the universe disappeared. Fury gives me the call like, yo, something's going on. Let me go check that out, and got mixed up in everything. So I think like, who knows how often during those 5 years she went back to Earth, but she probably popped in a lot more when she found out Monica got snapped, but also that Maria's cancer had come back. So, but we'll kind of explore, well, I guess I could talk about it now in this situation, but what Carol's been carrying this entire time, because I caught a glimpse of something. It wasn't really a spoiler. I guess it kind of was, but it didn't give any details. Where it's like, is Captain Marvel a war criminal? And it's like, I was like, what's the relation with that? Like, what's that about? And especially you got the Kree calling her Annihilator, and I'm like, what's that about? After the events of Captain Marvel, she went straight to the Kree planet, Hala, and she destroyed like that Annette Bening's character. Like, whatever that robot, that sentient life form computer thing, whatever it was, she blew it up, but ended up leading to catastrophic effects, because it's like, yeah, you're the hammer that came down, but the problem is Carol did not think. She just thought like, oh, I'm setting these people free. She didn't think for once the ramification of her actions and what it would do to, like, it led to a civil war, which ended up basically destroying that planet's resources, and that's what sends Dar-Benn on her whole crusade. I mean, in fact, she was there when Carol touched down all those years ago, and for her it's like she's been trying to find a way to save her home for these 30 years, and that's what makes her such an interesting villain, because it's like, it's kind of like that Killmonger thing, but not as, it's still that thing of like, I'm going about it a terrible way, but it's like, to me, it's the only way in 30 years I've found a solution. It is we take care of ours and look after our own, especially when you find out their planet went through a civil war too. So it's like, it's going to make you jaded, and you're just going to be like, right, I'm going to look after us, kind of screw anyone else. But we'll circle back to Dar-Benn soon enough, but like, to know that that's what Carol's been carrying this entire time, the guilt. That's why she didn't want to go back home, because she spent the past 30 years trying to fix it in whatever way she could, but the problem is Carol was trying to do it alone. And I love that moment with her and Monica, where it's just like, hey, like, that's what, like, because for her it's like, I'm supposed to be the good guy. I'm supposed to be like, the hero. And I didn't want to come back after doing what I did. I didn't want to disappoint you. You would have seen me I didn't want you to see me that way. But for her, it's like, I didn't need Captain Marvel. I didn't need you to be this ultra superhero. I just needed you to be Aunt Carol. But for her, it's like, I couldn't face you. It's like, family's there for you in those moments. Like, we could have been there to hold you and console you. That's what family's for, to be for you there in those moments. And obviously, them dealing with their family drama. And obviously, Kamala, everything with her family is like them kind of getting dragged into another one of her adventures. And her parents and her brother her brother not as much, but her brother's kind of got her back. But her mom and dad being like, no, don't get him mixed up in all of this craziness. You come back home type of situation. And like, oh, what do we kind of got dragged into? What is my daughter dragged into now? It's so, I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about this. Like anything, is about family, the blood family when it comes to Kamala and the Khans, the Khan family as a whole, but then you also have like the family we made for ourselves, like the sisterhood between Maria and Carol, and obviously that extension of, Carol and Monica's relationship. I love the whole thing of like, oh yeah, like, oh, you could call me Carol again. I mean, geez, I changed your diaper. She's like, one time, and then after that, apparently you started throwing up, and it was just too much for you to handle. It's just like, I love that though. There was just so much underlining there that we didn't really. Once again, just kind of those relationships as a whole was just so good, and just it is that. I think it's so interesting too, because I think definitely Kamala definitely got kind of that rude awakening of just like the world. and how things are in Miss Marvel, and she got it even more where it's just kind of the realization of you can't save everyone. Like when the planet that the Skrulls were on was going to be destroyed, Carol was like, "No, Kamala, we have to save who we can save," and just that realization you can't save everyone. It's like I have this power, but she learned that lesson the hard way during Miss Marvel too. Like she wasn't able to save everyone. Like her because wasn't the main antagonist her grandmother's sister or something like that, if I remember correctly? Was it the clandestine, the leader of the clandestines? Like, wasn't, because like her and Kamala are related. I want to say that was like her grandma's sister, if I remember correctly. Obviously, I've only seen Miss Marvel once, and it's been a while. So, but it's like, yeah, like she couldn't save her either. So it's just, and even Carol is like, sorry, I shouldn't have yelled at. She's like, no, I get it. Like you're Captain Marvel. You're trying to do the best you can. I mean, even the Skrulls were kind of pissed at her because it's like, right, you kind of screwed up what was kind of supposed to be a peace treaty, but Carol was like, no, they were going to use you. I mean, the end result was always going to be they were going to take resources from the planet you're staying on to help Hala, but at the very least, the Skrulls would have been taken in by the Kree to exist on their planet and kind of coexist with them. It would have just been, you would have been back under like Kree like control, but at least you would have had a planet. I think it was kind of pretty dope that Valkyrie came in. It's like, because when Carol was like, oh, I got someone, I'm like, who you got? And it's like, it was actually Valkyrie suggesting, like, I get it. I know what it's like being on, I've been on some weird teams myself, but like, right, you can stand tall, but also stand with other people. You can stand taller by having people around you. So, and I mean, even Carol admits, like, it's been a very lonely thing. Like, having Monica and Kamala on the ship, it's like, no, it's nice. Like, the only company she's really had, other than interactions she has with Fury, like, on a consistent basis, only interactions she has is Goose, which I love the whole thing of like, oh yeah, I'm leading a team. It's like, what? And no, that doesn't count. The only person you've been giving orders to is Goose, because she's always been a very like solo act. I even love Monica explaining like how she got her power. Just quickly brush over the whole thing of like, yeah, I probably don't want to explain like everything that went down with Wanda, which also makes you wonder, does Monica know what happened in Multiverse of Madness? Like, has that reached her yet? Especially, like, the connection her and... Maybe time will... Well, because hasn't they been officially said that... I mean, maybe they'll change things, but wasn't the official word recently revealed that, like, no, she straight up, like, our Wanda, the one that we've come to know, died in Multiverse of Madness? Like, wasn't that confirmed? I feel like I remember hearing that news. I don't think that was a rumor. I think it was just like, no, Marvel straight up confirmed that she died. I don't know, which is even sadder because like the last time Monica and her saw each other was the end of WandaVision, and it's like this reconciling. Well, with the ending of this movie, things could kind of change. It'd be a different Wanda, but still, and maybe that'll play in some larger scale, especially with the X-Men stuff and Wanda being a mutant. To some extent, that's a whole thing. We'll probably talk about it more when we get to like that post credit talk more and stuff like that. But either way, going back to it, our trio's interactions with each other. The fact of the matter is, when they were testing, I'm like, all right, we gotta figure this out. And like, once again, every time they activated their powers, it's like, cool, we switch places, but we also keep our powers activated. And so them working on it and them jump roping and like juggling stuff and using it in the most fun way, not just in battle, because they actually had to train it up and learn how to use. I thought that was actually really, really dope. I thought that was so much fun. I was like, oh, dude, I love that they got to use that for fun. And I love that just on the ship, it kind of felt like some DBZ stuff of like, you know, like Goku on his way to Namek training. It kind of felt like that training on the journey there. It kind of felt like that a little bit. Like, all right, let's get our bearings on how this whole thing works. I also love the reveal about Carol technically being married. Was it Prince Yan? And it's a planet they communicate through song. Because initially Carol was like, I'm kind of a celebrity here. It's kind of a little bit of a different... She's basically the princess. It's like, basically there was a political thing that had to be resolved by her marrying the prince. And it's like, And he's also the only one who speaks, like, he doesn't have to sing all the time. He can just talk normally because he's bilingual. But it's just like the vibe of the place. And I love that while they're there, like, Kamala's the only one that's really dancing and feeling the vibe. And she's like, why aren't you dancing? And Carol's like, I am dancing. And it's just, yeah, she's a princess and everything. It's so much, I thought that was just so much fun. It's like, it's kind of nice. It's also got to be a little sad. It's like, hey, because she's like, no, like, it's just a ceremony. It's like, it's just a technicality. It doesn't really count. It's just for this, so it's not like a true thing. But it feels like he's really into Carol, and like them having their little dance sing number too, and just Monica being like, okay, like what's going on? It's like, oh, I think Kamala was like, yeah, she's kind of getting into it. So I thought that was dope. But I'm also kind of getting retrofitted with like their final outfits, and obviously Kamala is going to be keeping that going forward, I'd assume. I mean, I'd assume she'd keep the original too, considering like, like her mom made that for her. So like, obviously it has its own like special meaning and stuff. Obviously we also have like, oh God, what are they called? I think they were called nega bands. I know they're nega bands in the comics, but I also want to say that they were called nega bands in this as well. And even maybe Miss Marvel. I don't remember if they were actually called that in Miss Marvel or not. But yeah, Dar-Benn ends up getting the other one, which is so interesting how it all connects. Obviously, Dar-Benn's got her connection to Carol, who is connected to Kamala because Kamala is like so like into her, and obviously because it's like, oh, like I'm your number one fan and stuff like that. So I thought that was so dope. Interesting how that all works out. That it's like, yeah, the Bengals were kind of meant to find their way back to each other. Yeah, Dar-Benn got it, but this whole situation, this whole journey brought Kamala to the other Bengal. And I wonder what that means in a grand scheme for her, you know? I thought it was also interesting too, like, I thought she needed the Bengals because she actually uses her powers without the Bengals. I guess it's like she's worn it for so long. She is a mutant, but now in the comics as well, because obviously before now she was an Inhuman, but that kind of started with the MCU. Like, rather than going the Inhuman route with her, they went the mutant route with her now in the MCU. So it's probably encoded in her DNA now. Probably like she could probably use it without the Bengals, but it probably takes a lot more out of her to probably. They didn't really explore that too much because she only has the Bengals off for like a minute or two, and then she's still able to use her power. So maybe it just makes it easier for her, or what the Bengals represent. It's just like, well, beyond that, they have significance beyond that, but like the power's already encoded in my mutant DNA, so I'm able to use them. It's just an extension. Well, to be fair, because the whole thing is she is part clandestine, so it also stems from that too. I think the Bengals just help bring out what was already there, so it's not like she needs them anymore. They already unlocked what was already there, but I think it probably makes it a little easier to control all of that. She, with her new outfit too, she was able to use her scarf, which I'm curious. Has she ever used her scarf as a weapon like that in the comics? I was always just thought it was like an accessory thing. I never knew, at least the one that she got from Prince Jan was like, yeah, like she can utilize it as a weapon, but I'm curious, like, is that something they'll keep doing going forward? And is that something she's utilized in the comics before? I also love that almost most of the movie, you have Kamala's family kicking it with Fury. And I just love that whole like thing of like, her brother, Kamala's brother's like trying to show it off to his wife, like, oh yeah, this is what's going on, and Fury's like, stop filming this, because it's like, oh, are there directions in space? And he's like, yes, there are. So we are going up, and them just kind of kicking it at Saber. Then the whole Goose situation, because it's like, oh, Goose is looking a little fat, and Goose is just eating any and everything. I even love that scene where Kamala was like, oh my god, the cat ate them with tentacles. Where did the tentacles come out of its mouth? And it just like spit them out, and that turned into a whole fight sequence at the Khan's house. So I just thought that was so dope. And I love the reveal because I remember the scene because I think there was a scene you see in the trailer where all the cats are running down, but I want to say that was on Prince Jan's planet. So, I mean, once again, there's certain things that you see in the trailer, like, right, they were filmed that were just like, there's stuff that pops up in trailers that just never got used, or maybe they changed it, but like I don't, because I was under the impression like because I didn't think about it at the time. Maybe I did. I don't remember what I said during my trailer discussion, because I remember watching the teaser. I never watched any of the other trailers. I'm watching. From now on, I only watch one trailer. I'm not going to watch multiple trailers because I just want to go into stuff not knowing as much. And obviously, it's been a hot minute since I saw the teaser, so I didn't remember everything. But I feel like I distinctly remember like all the goose-like cats running down the stairs. I don't know if I correlated it at the time that they were like Goose. Turns out they're all Goose's kids, because like I love they found like a sack and they're like, well, did someone plant this here or what? But then you find out, oh no, it's Goose. Goose has been a little chubbier, probably eating everything because she's like giving birth, and all the cats around. And I love that's how they get around the whole thing of like, okay, so like the cats have to eat everybody because there's not enough escape pods for everyone to get through. So it's easier to put like the few that are active, just put a whole bunch of cats in it after they eat people. And I love the announcement, stop running away from the cats and let them eat you. And people are just legitimately scared. You even see one of the researcher guys just kind of be like, okay, and just kind of like standing ready and prepared. That one woman kept running. Even Kamala had to block one dude, and she's like, I'm sorry, and was just holding the cat up and just feeding people to it. I love the whole thing. And even when Fury's in the ship with some of the cats and the cons, that like her brother starts praying. He's like, are you praying? And he stops, and Fury's like, no, keep praying. We need everything we got. And he keeps going. He's like, amen. Amen. Because at one point, some of the cats start throwing up, so there's at least one or two people that fly out of the cat that land in the cockpit. I love it so much. There was a whole conversation too I've seen pop up. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but some people have wondered, is this supposed to imply like Secret Invasion is in a different universe? Like that it doesn't take place in the same, because there isn't any overlap, and once again, as we know, sadly, a lot of Marvel stuff does not talk to other Marvel stuff. So even with Fury being there, to be fair, a lot of Secret Invasion was redone, and I don't know like what the overlap was schedule-wise with like them basically kind of having to, you know, feel however you want to feel about Secret Invasion. I liked it. I know most people didn't. That's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to judge you if you didn't. My point, it just being like so much of that had to be scrapped and redone. With the end result being what it is. So I don't know how much the Marvels was like involved in that, where it's just kind of like, if we're incorporating or anything, like once again, a lot of Marvel wasn't speaking to other Marvel during all this. Like people working on one project didn't always talk or communicate with someone else on another project that is connected in a lot of ways. But either way, I think maybe technically speaking, you could still make it so that Secret Invasion takes place after this. It still could be like that. Could also be a little bit of why Fury's kind of like at the like during Secret Invasion. So canonically speaking, it could still be like Secret Invasion happens afterwards, because I don't think there's anything in this that necessarily contradicts that. Because I mean, his wife not being there makes you go like, okay, so either it's a different universe, there's that possibility, or it's just like, no, Secret Invasion happens after the fact. So that's at least my canon for right now. I'm sure there's other things to be like, no, your canon is wrong. That's just my thought process. I'm not saying it's foolproof or whatever, but I'm assuming it's supposed to mean that Secret Invasion takes place after. Because like what happens to Monaco could also be like why you're kind of a little more dour and down in the after, like during the events of Secret Invasion, you know, especially with everything that went down because of the Kree and this, and obviously everything with the Skrulls being on New Asgard. Essentially, you know, they had to get teleported to New Asgard. And they also talk about too, they talked about in Secret Invasion, some are like being held captive one place. There's also a whole bunch of them just scattered throughout the universe. So, kind of something on a more like happier note. I love that Kamala kept trying to give Monica one of like her code name. It's like, oh, she's Miss Marvel. You want to be Professor Marvel or something like that. I could have sworn she said one of her nicknames amongst the ones she was listing off, because I know one of her code names is Photon. There was another one that I've heard people throw around that I can't remember off the top of my head. One of them is Pulsar and Spectrum. I remember Kamala. I think Spectrum's the one I heard. I think Kamala called her Spectrum at one point in time. They never actually landed on one. She does. I think I was also reading it too. She does become Captain Marvel, which is so interesting on two different levels. Oh, in the comics, at one point, she takes up the mantle of Captain Marvel. I wonder, does Kamala ever take up that mantle? Well, I know she does for a little bit, because that's actually part of her story of why she goes by Miss Marvel in the comics. Besides just being a big fan, she actually kind of used her shapeshifting abilities and became Carol for a little bit, if I remember correctly. I think I remember hearing someone explain this a while back. Once again, not well versed in the comic books. This is me speaking something secondhand. If I'm completely wrong, do correct me. But either way, my point being, that I was saying, like, right, she becomes Captain Marvel at some point in the comics, which is interesting considering there was that line from Maria, because Carol was like, no, it should have been you that day. Like, if I had never kind of gotten ahead of you during our kind of race or whatever, like, you would be where I am. But for her, it's like, no, I never wanted to be Captain Marvel. I wanted to be Captain Rambeau. It fits me better, which I'm like, oh, that's ironic and interesting considering even by this point in the MCU, we already know there's another universe where she is Captain Marvel because, what was it, like 838? The Earth from multiverse of into the multiverse of madness. That Monica was that I might be saying Monica. I do apologize. Sometimes I'm saying Maria when I meant to say I'm saying Monica when I meant to say Maria, and there's situations where I'm probably saying Maria when I mean to say Monica. Maria is Captain Marvel in that other. I want to say it was like 838 in or it was something like that in Multiverse of Madness. But either way, I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. But like I said, them not sticking with a name, I think is kind of interesting. I think maybe whenever Monica does return, it will turn into that situation. But going back to Dar-Benn a little bit, like I said, she goes about it the worst way. But it is that thing of you kind of understand like your planet. I mean, I think it. Maybe this is me reading too much into it. I think it is kind of an interesting juxtaposition between Carol, who kind of handled everything on her own and feels solely responsible and wants to do something, where you have someone like Dar-Benn who was exactly in that boat of, you did something and I'm trying to handle it on my own. She'd even made it clear to her right-hand man, like, yo, if I have to die in a process to save my planet, I'll do it. Like, Carol and everyone else gets that. It's like, hey, you want to do this to save your planet. You just don't have to destroy everything else in the process, because you get both of these bangles, you will not survive it, and she doesn't. Because her opening up all these wormholes, as Monica described it, is basically, it's like it's tearing, it's like fracking, and now it's like it's basically intergalactic fracking, and it's causing massive issues that it's like it's going to like unravel a lot of stuff doing what she does, and ultimately that ends up being the end result when she basically tears open a wormhole, punches a hole in space time, dies in the process, and Kamala and Carol like give her all the energy. They phase it into Monica, which obviously like Monica ended up kind of having to take the crash course on her powers. Like when she was trying to save I love that whole sequence of her trying to save Kamala falling from the sky, and it's like, oh, like she kind of messed up, and it's like, oh, you phased through me, I gotta fly, but I can't really help us. And they didn't have to worry about, because I love Kamala tried to put like an orb around them, but before they hit the ground, they ended up switching back to Carol, and she ended up hitting ground. I love that line from Fury. He's like, "Oh, it's just Carol." Like just like some of his nonchalantness, it's like, get up there and learn how to fly. Black girl magic, go do your thing, Monica. But yeah, Monica, I had a feeling because like Kamala nor Carol were worried about it, but the moment Monica's like, "I'm gonna handle this," I'm like, she's gonna have to be on the other side, and for her, she knew from the beginning what this meant. And she's like, it's okay. I have to see this through. I knew from the beginning I wouldn't be able to make it back. And it's just that sad thing of like, especially because like you had that back to back scene of like when like before she could clang the bangles together, Carol's like moving at super speed trying to like stop Dar-Benn, but ends up not able to make it in time. And then kind of it repeats itself too when she's trying to get to Monica. She's moving as fast as she can, but the punch in the hole in space time closes before she could get there, and it's just that heaviness of just like, right, her and Monica finally found their way back to each other after all this time, and here we are separated again. I mean, especially for Carol, it's like the only family she has left in the world is gone, especially because it's like, right, I meant to, with Maria gone, it's up to me. I kind of wasn't there as Aunt Carol. I could have been here too, like especially because it's like I have all this power and I couldn't do anything to save Monica. And just like that beautiful situation later on, because the Khan's house got destroyed, so they're moving to Louisiana for a little bit. I wonder how that went over with Kamala's friends, but I guess they're just staying there until like I guess Saber can fix up their house or whatever. But they're moving there because that's Maria's house, and they're staying there, and it's really beautiful, and especially because we had gotten a little bit of those flashbacks of a young Maria, and I even love Kamala being like, "Oh my God, is that you?" And it's like, "Oh, your mom, she was so great," because of the whole like looking into your memory stuff. Their memories were connected. They were trying to find out where Dar-Benn was going at that time, and for Carol, like there were memories floating up to the surface. Because she even admits like some of her memories still aren't back all these years later after what the Kree did to her. She still doesn't have everything back, which is kind of sad that even after all these years, there's still like she's still unscrambling some of that. And so I think the combination of her feelings plus kind of being in Monica's memories and Monica being in hers, it just she wasn't doing it on purpose, but I think being in proximity to Monica made her think more about Maria and everything and Monica, and it just and even Kamala like being there to hug her Monica after they got through the memories, and then she reached out to Carol like, "Come on," and all three of them hugging. I was like, it's so beautiful, dude. But this is what I was talking about too, because Monica is gone. Like I could see this being why he's a little more after like and going into Secret Invasion. There's a lot he's carrying, not only the situation with the scrolls, and now there's also the situation of Monica being gone. Now like Monica, and I guess it's like she was under your duty too, and just the world's kind of a little dimmer without her in it type of situation. But I did like Carol kind of taking Kamala under her wings type of situation. I even love Kamala at one point. It was like, not now, but like earlier in the movie being like, "Yeah, if there's ever anything you need me for, you can call me." She's like, "I know I came off super strong. I'm sorry, but it's like, if you ever need me, I will drop everything. I will drop out of high school for you." She's like, "No, do not do that." you know? But yeah, like her taking Kamala under her wing and kind of like being kind of like that sisterly relationship that they kind of have now. It's so interesting considering like, because her and Monica are roughly the same age, but it's probably like, because Carol's age, like, I don't know if her age completely palls or whether it's more like, no, she just ages really, really slowly. But it's like, yeah, they're contemporaries. They're about the same age. And now it's like, so it is more or less less Aunt Carol, almost like Sister Carol, and so it's like that trio is almost like a sisterhood of sorts. The Marvels as they're called, because I love that Kamala came up with that name, but then also on Prince Yan's planet they called them the Marvels, and Monica's like, wait, why is that a thing? Like, why did they immediately jump to that? And Kamala was super hyped about that. So, but obviously we tie this all into our post credits where we find out where Monica is. She's in a different universe. Now, this was kind of spoiled because this was like the rumor. It's my own fault for watching a lot of geeky rumored stuff, but the rumor was that the cameo at the end was going to be Beast, and it was. Now, granted, it is Kelsey Grammer as Beast, and he was asked to keep an eye on her because of Charles. Now, what universe this is, we don't know, but obviously, you'd assume this would tie into... Makes you wonder, would we see, because there's been rumors, once again, take it with a grain of salt, that apparently there's going to be TVA agents involved, whether it's some of our cast or all of our TVA agent cast tied from Loki into Deadpool 3. I don't know if that means Monica's going to make a guest appearance in some shape or form. But I think that line about Maria being like, "Oh, I don't want to be Captain Marvel," it's like, I think it's supposed to resonate even more because... I mean, it's sad. Like Monica finds this world where it's like her mom's alive, but obviously her mom is single in this world. So I guess, I mean, it makes sense because the only reason why she was able to have, which is so interesting because that makes you wonder, like, does that mean Carol has a family in this universe? Because that means, like, in this universe, I mean, the same thing for the Doctor Strange world. It's like, that means Carol never became Captain Marvel. Maria did. So that must mean Carol just lived a normal life all those years type of situation. Carol wishes the shoe was on the other foot, and in other universes, it is. So just something kind of interesting to think about. But it is also that thing of, like, man, like, it's that complicated thing of like, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be a little similar to the Gamora situation, except it's like, well, not a timeline, it's a variant situation of, hey, here's your mom. At least it's nice to know she's alive in a different universe. She's not the same person. In fact, she might be super mom in this universe because because the outfit she has in Multiverse of Madness is closer to like a Captain Marvel outfit, but the one she has on I mean, to my recollection, it's been a couple hours now, but it feels like it was closer to what Monica wore to some extent. I don't know. What that all means in the grand scheme of things, who knows? But aside from that, we got another thing which I wasn't expecting until we got to the end. I was like we saw, I was like, wait, is that supposed to be Kate? I was like, what? And it's so interesting because it's Kamala being like filling in the oh god, the Fury role of gathering up people. I love that. It's like, right, she's kind of putting together the Young Avengers. It's like, Kate Bishop, I know about you. You're not the only young superhero out there. It's like, well, she's like, I am 23. She's like, I know, I got your file here because Kamala, like, they have all this file about Kamala because it's like, well, she helped save New Jersey, so of course it's like, what, you're spying on us? And Fury's like, I wouldn't call it spying per se, but I love Kamala being like, so join me, pretty please. And you can tell like Kate's all about it. So I wonder where Clint is. I'm assuming he's with his family and just because it seems like she's back in New York. So I don't know if she's kind of here off on her own, maybe picking up the pieces in the aftermath of Hawkeye, like with family stuff, because she was like geared up too. It's not like she was geared up. So it's like, interesting. But it's also fascinating to me, like, Kamala's the one that's putting together the Young Avengers. I don't know, because like because it also depends, because I know, like, well, Peter's out there, but no one knows. Peter's in that interesting spot because they'd have some data on Spider-Man, but they wouldn't know anything about Peter Parker because Peter Parker doesn't exist. So it makes you wonder, like, well, not unless he reinvented his identity. Once again, how do you go about that? Because you don't have the Avengers. You also don't have you have Doctor Strange, who knows about what you went through during No Way Home, but it's still also the thing of he can't do anything about Peter Parker, the Peter Parker of it all. He can do it about, like, everyone knows Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. So makes you wonder, does Fury know about that? Like I said, it depends on whether Peter reinvented himself with a fake identity. Does he go by a different name now? Like, there's stuff like that. But eventually he'd got to be joining the roster. Because I even love that she had referenced, it's like, oh yeah, did you know Ant-Man has a daughter? So it's like, obviously Cassie's on the list too. So putting together the Young Avengers makes you wonder, would that include Thor's daughter? Which I also didn't notice. I only knew this because someone mentioned it recently. Had no idea that was actually one of Chris Hemsworth's kids. That was his actual daughter point. I don't know. I think stuff like that's cute. But yeah, we have all of that. You'd assume Kate would probably end up suggesting Yelena, but to be fair, she's connected to the Thunderbolts, where we don't currently know where that stands. So, but maybe in the aftermath of the Thunderbolts, Yelena gets involved with the Young Avengers or what? Because I'm trying to think, like, who else is out there besides them that've kind of been set up as like the new Young Avengers. Is it? Oh, Hulk's son was introduced in like the season finale, She-Hulk, so I think he would be part of it as well. Oh yeah, there's also Riri. She's out there. So getting together quite a little squad. I was trying to think. I was like, is there anyone? I was like, well, I know Torres wouldn't be part of the Young Avengers, would he? Because I know he eventually becomes the new Falcon. I was about to say, like, well, because I know Wanda's kids are part of the Young Avengers, aren't they? I think so. Is it Isaiah Bradley has a nephew he's in a little bit of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know what his circumstances end up being in the comics, but his grandson's name is Eli. That's where I was kind of like overlapping. Like, Eli, I think, could end up being that, but he's like Patriot in the comic books, but I don't know if that's a super soldier situation or not. Yeah, I was looking at, he is part of the Young Avengers. He also has a nickname, well, notable alias is what, Lieutenant America, apparently. So, like, once again, there's people spread out where, like, all right, Kamala's putting together the little squad, so. There's also the conversation that had come up previously, wondering whether or not there was a connection between the 10 rings that Shang-Chi has and Kamala's bangs. Obviously, bangles, we never got anything in this movie. Doesn't mean that couldn't cross over in some area, especially considering, well, we know Carol. Well, because Carol knows about the bangles because she was like, yo, they're supposed to be like a myth amongst the Kree. But maybe there is no correlation with the 10 rings, but maybe there is, because we still never found out what signal it was that it was corresponding to. Because you would almost wonder, could it have been the bangle, could that have been the bangle that Dar-Benn got this movie, like what, and now that Kamala has the other one, like could that have been what the 10 rings were kind of responding to, or no? Maybe that's not what we'll explore later, that it's all kind of connected, or maybe not, I don't know. Just a lot of interesting questions about where all this will go going forward in the MCU. Obviously, you can't help but think about stuff like that, especially being a fan of the MCU. But like I said, in general, like, for now, I'm just satisfied with the story we got. I'm actually really excited to rewatch the movie again because, like I said, it's just a lot of fun. I know that's such a blasé word to just say, but I mean, like, that's to me, for a movie to be, I've talked about it time and time again, for a movie just to be good or even great, all you have to do is make me invested and just be something I can, like, just submit myself to, just dive into it, and the characters, and I was able to do that. So to me, this movie is a success. Once again, you don't feel that way, that's 100% okay. I'm not going to demonize you for it. I'm not going to say you're this or that for. It's just like, okay, you didn't enjoy it, but I did. It's such a bummer this movie isn't doing better than it is. It's in the same boat. I'm sure financial situation wise, obviously it's in a worse situation than like Blue Beetle, but it's like I wanted Blue Beetle to do better than it did. I don't know whether that's going to help out with the more streaming service side of things. I don't know if that really does help. But this movie, like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm seeing it like, what? This is the second week. But like, I don't know. I wish it's like, I'm so curious to see what the future has for, because I'd love more like Carol and Kamala shenanigans, especially with like, I wonder, is this the last we'll see of, it's not going to be the last that we see of them, obviously, with Kamala putting together the Young Avengers, but I'm wondering what Carol's going to do after, because I didn't talk about it, but she had made a promise to Dar-Benn before Dar-Benn like tried, it was like, I can't trust the Annihilator to keep up her end of the bargain, but it's like, yeah, she basically went back and reignited the sun, with her power, because she had never pushed herself that far, because the only time we've really seen her push her powers like that was in the What If episode when she was going up against Ultron. That's when she really went all out, and yeah, obviously that whole situation is like, well, that was probably more Ultron than it was her, the whole Sakaar exploding, as well as all those other planets nearby exploding. But yeah, she ignited the sun and just ended up coming back, because it's like, right, Hala is still in a bad place, but it's on the road to recovery, as well as the other planets. I mean, the planet that the Skrulls were on, it still needs to be repaired, but I don't know if that's beyond repair, but we know at least like Prince Han's planet is okay, and maybe more interactions between him and Carol in the future. That'd be kind of nice. For that not just to be such a platonic, hey, we're friends thing, that this was just like a ceremonial thing that doesn't really matter. It's like, no, I think it'd be kind of cute and fun if it actually did matter. I mean, it seemed like he was kind of really into it, but maybe that's just part of their friendship situation. But yeah, I'd love to see where the next time we get to see our trio. I can't wait for them to be fully reunited and stuff like that. So, and what's next? That was a line from Monica. She was like, oh, you seeing all this, like, how much is this inspiring your Captain Marvel fanfic? She's like, oh, I'm like coming up with so many chapters right now. It's wild. Like, oh, like after this, it's going to be so interesting to see. I'm also curious to see in totality, it's going, I mean, based on that ending with Kate, you see how much this experience has changed Kamala, probably getting orders from Fury now with all of this, but also like, because her and Carol know, like, no, we'll see Monica again. Like, we'll kind of hold down the fort till she's back. So, like I said, I'm curious. I'd love another Captain Marvel movie. Hopefully we get one in the future. And I'm also going to bring this into like the real world of it too. I hope Brie Larson does keep playing the character. I completely understand if she doesn't want to. I know, like, once again, you don't like her in the role. That's fine. That's a whole conversation itself. That's a reasonable being like, I just don't like her in the role. I don't like this portrayal of Captain Marvel. That's perfectly fine. Because you could make the argument, it's like, well, it's not her, it's more so about the direction and writing, so on and so forth. I'm not a fan of that anti-Brie Larson, right? Just like literally people just spent the past couple years doing nothing but shitting on her. You can call me a white knight, like blah 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 blah. It's just anytime Brie Larson pops up, I always get that feeling like, oh god, here we go, and cue portion on the internet shitting on her for no reason. So it's like, after all that, it takes the fun out of you wanting to do this. So I know she's kind of been like, yeah, maybe I'll stop after this. I hope she doesn't. I really like her in this role, and I'd love to see her. Like I said, she got to like flex even more in this role. But it's like, I also get the fact that, and people will be like, oh, it's only a small market. It's like, when anyone in here, like when a good enough swell of people actively make content about shitting on you and it gets hundreds and thousands of views, like of course that's going to weigh on your psyche, because at the end of the day, celebrity or no, we're all human and we can only take so much before it really gets under our skin. So she doesn't need me defending her, but it's just one of those things of, I hope it doesn't discourage her. Well, I know it already has, but I do hope she does keep playing. Not saying everyone else in the fan base feels like that, but on a personal level, I'm aware of a few people too who feel the same way, where they hope this doesn't discourage her from playing the role forward, because I'd love her to continue playing this role, because I think, just like I think it takes some time for some of the others to some people, it came a little quicker finding their footing in their roles. Once again, it's direction, it's acting, it's like, it's an amalgamation, and it's not just on her. It's a combination of direction that she's given as well as the writing itself. And I think, like I said, I think we got to see a more fun side of Captain Marvel. We got to only see a little bit of in the movie, and obviously some of we got a little bit more of like in Endgame and stuff. So that's just my 2 piece on it. So I'll kind of shut up there. So, but that's enough rambling on my part. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.